Leslie.
I'm Larry. I forgot my name for a second.
Okay. Well, it's
Okay, I'm
Leslie
Larry.
and Lowry today. And this is Sumo Kaboom.
Where we talk about all things sumo and lots more. Today we're just going to have a conversation because it is our 200th episode, y'all.
200. We should play that.
Thought?
We should play that music.
What music?
The synthesizer. This. I'll send you that when you edit. But
That's Leslie's favorite song.
I love the synthesizer reveal.
My favorite song is Terra Fuji, always.
Well, yes, and I think we'll talk about that today. But on our 200th episode, we were like, what do we talk about?
That's the point. And we thought we would just go back and just sort of just reminisce about what we've learned, because this is like 4 years of doing this podcast, which I cannot believe.
I think it's actually 3.
We started in 2020 to 2021 to 2022 to 2023 to 2024.
Still, I think it's 3 years.
I think it's just 1.5. It's just 18 days. It doesn't feel like, however long it's been, it doesn't feel like it's been a really long time. But no. Leslie's giving me this look like, oh, yes.
No, but I just am amazed. I tell people how many episodes we have, and they're like, yeah, I still don't listen. And I'm like, that's okay. It's all good.
You don't need to.
I've done 200 of them. And people are like, really?
And
I'm like,
still not going to listen.
200 episodes for, I don't know, the 500 people around the world that listen. I don't know how many people listen, but that's what we do. Every week we sit in the closet and we talk about sumo.
Yeah. And, we're just going to chat about
That's right.
our time in the closet.
That's right. But first, you want to do a little news?
Yeah.
The Hakaho Cup, which we weren't sure exactly when it was happening last week.
I do want to point out
that
I was right.
Yeah.
It was just the day after.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what day it is on the other side of the planet. So I was like, I don't know, but it didn't happen or it did happen. Anyway, we saw pictures, it happened. So it was a huge event with all sorts of fun commentating, and it was really like a lively event. Boys from all over, all ages. It was just, I saw some clips of like the little 5-year-olds just going so incredibly hard at sumo, and it was adorable. Mm-hmm. Lots of big hearts. And the top division was really fun to watch because you could see like all the oyakatas watching for like scouting purposes.
That's good.
Their demeanor kind of changed when they were watching those bouts. So, anyway, it was really cool. And we got to see Koto Shogiku's son fight Hakaho in
which
like
was kind of like the best part of the entire thing.
Yeah, because he did the back bend thing. Yeah. That was so Koto Shogiku, and he's like 5, and it's just like adorable. But 160 teams.
All that salt.
Yeah, he threw big salt.
Hakaho was like, great, you're going to throw a lot of salt? I'm going to throw a lot of salt.
Yeah, it was adorable.
Yeah.
Like over 1,000 boys. So that was really, really cool. We're keeping this sport alive, and it's always joyful to see kids of all ages do this sport. It's a great time.
Boys and
girls. This is kind of unrelated, but the Kokugikon was used for like this really big concert event, which they hadn't done in a while. And basically what it is, I saw a video from a few years ago, but they don't have the videos out from this year, but it's this youth orchestra choir consortium. Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Like coming together, and they like fill up the whole Kokugikon, and then they sing, and then these like incredible youth orchestras play, and they're amazing, and they conduct. The video I saw was like all of the stands full of people wearing matching outfits because that was a choir. So it was like the coolest thing. Ooh. So it was huge. And that place seats like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So
how fun would
it
that
was like
be?
This big music affair at the Kokugikon. And I'm pretty
Zooming
sure
them all to heaven at the same time.
I'm pretty sure I saw some videos of some sumo wrestlers singing a little bit as well. So they brought a little bit of music, which is a big part of the sumo world, into that concert.
Or at least our sumo world.
Exactly. Also, love is in the air, everywhere and something, something. What is it? Love is in the air, everywhere and all around. That one?
Sure.
Anyway, love is in the air because
I can feel it everywhere.
I can feel it everywhere. I don't know what it is, but everyone got married around Valentine's Day.
Everyone,
which
y'all.
Midori Fuji got married.
You mean Mia Morifuji?
Miyamori Fuji got married. He had a photo with his wife and his tiny baby. He's 27, she's 23, and they got married on Valentine's Day. He said when he first met her, she is the daughter of a supporter of the stable. And they met both like when he was really like starting out in sumo. Like he definitely probably didn't have privileges to see girls at that point. And she was in high school. So she was much younger. And then the coronavirus happened, and then they didn't see each other. And then they saw each other again. And he was just like, I thought she was beautiful. And she had a positive attitude. And a month later, they started dating. And then she had moved to Tokyo. And then 2 months later, at the Haneda airport, she had come to see him off somewhere. And he said, let's get registered to get married when you get back. And he joked about it because like they got married March 29th of 2023. And then October, they had a little girl. So he has this is in the Nikon Sports, fast attack sumo, but also fast attack he's like, I'm
fast
a sumo.
Attack marriage?
Yeah, he's like, I'm a speedy sumo wrestler. I'm
a speedy lover.
Yeah, he's like, when it came to her, he just knew that she was it.
And he just gets in fast
and
he grabs underneath her armpits
and swings her into marriage.
That's right. Swing her right in.
He just had an impression, and she likes him. She thinks he's honest and serious.
Really?
And
serious. Okay, I
don't see
get that flavor from him, but maybe he is.
Yeah, but she said his like absolutely no doubt about moving forward in the relationship was like, okay, I feel relieved. This guy really wants
me.
Yeah. And so it's sweet. And he cooks everything for her. He likes to cook. He really loves her, and he's a great father. So anyway, that's sweet. Another sweet one is Hokuto Fuji. At 31, got married to his older lady Manami, who is 35, so a little older.
And they've been together for a while.
Yeah, 4 years. They got married in 2020, so they had finally a reception, over 600 guests, and
over their shared love of The Lion King.
Yeah, they are really adorable. He said, I didn't think it would really take 4 years, but we thought it was like kind of the impossible, but here we are. They've had a son born in 2021. Had said too that like with the pandemic, having the kid there, he didn't have to go out on tour. So he could actually be around and be more of like a father and participate in the child rearing process, which he it was a very special time for him. And he said he's still planning on, he did not have surgery, because if he had surgery, he would have postponed the reception. So he has not had surgery and is planning on doing March, the tournament. But he has said also that he has done like fundamentals. He hasn't been doing full bouts or practicing. So I was like, I don't know if that's the smartest choice, Hokuto Fuji, but he must have really wanted to get married. And if he's going to have surgery, we'll find out how he does in the beginning of March, and then probably he'll pull out. But
I imagine you probably plan these things like a year in advance.
Yeah.
And when he got hurt, he was probably like, you know what? Either we have to send messages out to 500 people,
right,
or I just postpone my surgery.
Right.
That seems easier.
Yeah. So we'll see how he fares. I hope he does well, but we'll see.
Another
Chiyoshoma got married to, it looks like a very nice Mongolian girl. We saw her because she was wearing Mongolian bridal wear, which is really beautiful. And I don't know if I've ever seen Chiyoshoma really smiling, but it was on February 17th, and she's 32 and he's 33. They've been married actually since 2019. They have a 4-year-old son. And they were just waiting, like Hokuto Fuji, for the coronavirus, all of that kind of, the restrictions there to kind of ease. So he says they are full of happiness.
I love it.
Yeah. So that is the love updates.
And he looks very suave.
Yeah. I just like seeing him smile. He's just usually not so smiley, but she was beautiful and smiley and lovely.
Much taller than I thought.
I don't know. I only saw them sitting down, but.
I'm just so used to very small Japanese women next to a very large man, and she looked like she was about his height.
Well, maybe Mongolians are a little bigger because that's a tough life. Like out on the plains, like it's
And it makes them tall.
no, but like you got to be strong to survive that. You can't be tiny. You got to be a force of nature to survive like negative 1,000 degrees, and then in the summer there's like no trees and it's like 100
You got to be
degrees.
5'10"
You got
to
to be
survive.
you got to be strong stock. I think after 200 episodes, when I was thinking back about all the things I really love, there's a lot of content in my brain, but then I also forget so much of it too.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But in the beginning, I never listened to our episodes because I'm really afraid of it.
You're afraid of
Because
listening to
of
us?
just how we would be pronouncing things, which we still probably pronounce things incorrectly, but just how wrong and how, we were really curious about everything, but like we were really learning. Like I had some knowledge, but, I didn't know how to pronounce half the things that we do today or have an understanding of how things work. So I know people always go back and listen and they like listening to all the episodes. And I'm like, that's amazing. But I would be probably embarrassed just how stupid we were. Just be like, let's make a podcast and we don't know everything. But we have learned so incredibly much like over 4 years.
Yeah.
Every time you like turn the corner, you find out something else that's new and cool and beautiful about the sport and about the wrestlers. But one thing that I really, really loved is, of course, I love the sumo. I mean, that's first and foremost. One of the things that really interests me is just how musical it is. And maybe because I'm a musician too, but learning that there's this whole jinku is the traditional folk singing, but that along with this tradition of just them singing at every event. And one of my all-time favorites was the video of the Oyakatas doing original songs and Kakaru singing My Way.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
this
I
is
know what you're
also
saying.
the same
In the
session.
studio.
Yeah, in studio. And it was also the session where we heard Ted Fuji sing.
For the first time.
Yeah. I love you.
Yeah.
So that was like really amazing. And I thought at that time, this is now a goal. I don't care if I really get a chance to sit down with any of these guys and talk to them. I only want to be in a karaoke room with a bunch of wrestlers, like coming together over the thing we both love, or we all love, which is music.
And more, much more than this, I did it my way.
I would also like to add to that, because it seemed like it happened at about the same time when we happened upon Hokuto Fuji singing Pineapple Pen,
Pineapple pen, pear, pineapple, pine,
pear, pineapple,
pear, pine,
whatever that
pineapple
song
pen,
is.
pineapple, pear. I don't know.
There was so much like really wonderful music content that all came up around the same time. Yeah, and I feel like if we weren't following sumo as closely as we are, I would have missed it.
I would have missed all of that amazing stuff if I was just paying attention to the sport. And I think that the fans and people who listen to us and people who tag us in videos and are like, just today, someone was like, you need to see these 8 sumo wrestlers doing a cheerleading routine that came out today. And I was like, you are absolutely correct. Like I did need to see them break in, like popping and locking in their mawashis. Absolutely. Like our listeners send us this stuff. And like, that's really like the beautiful thing. Everybody's just like, here, you want the content like you can't see on the other side of the earth.
Yeah.
And there's such great content that's so outside of the realm of actual wrestling that is just a feast for the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of my favorite things has really been whenever, and I hesitate to sort of like lump this in to what you just said, but like anything that's like really dumb sumo content that has nothing to do with the wrestling.
Like the belly touching event?
Yes. Like
which also goes along with the singing thing because I adored hearing Shodai somewhat butcher every day, every night, which is, I actually think that's the only way it should be sung. Like, I'm going to learn that song so that I can go to Japan and sing
that
it
with him. Like, when you meet him, you can go,
I'd be like, I know the words every day, every night. I'm gonna sing with him, whether he likes it or not. I'll be outside of his window at the stable, like at night, serenading him.
Yes, with the
boombox.
Yeah, the boombox over your head. So it's that kind of stuff. And it's the fans with Tommy Fuji's face on them that everyone's holding. It's the really dumb, hilarious sumo merch. The whole world of sumo merch.
Well, I think
that's
it brings
outside.
us together.
You and I?
No, just like all fans. Like,
all fans.
We may not speak the same language, but we all have the same passion for a Tommy Fuji.
Yes. But it's also like the discussions we've had about blood type.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty silly.
What their favorite foods are. And
yes. But I would even extend that to like Mac from the Grand Sumo Breakdown writing us a story about making mochi and reading that for us.
That was one of my highlights as well. I have to say, I think
like anything that's really dumb,
it was like
our
very first Valentine's episode where Mac did sumo erotica. Either he lost a bet. I think he lost a bet and then had to come on Sumo Kaboom. And then did erotica, and then hence ever since people keep sending us erotica or slightly like spicy sumo content.
Which
like,
I'm all in
I'm not
for.
disappointed at that. I just like everyone's like kind of pigeonholed us into like they're the girls who like it weird. We're like, no, it just started out with Mac from Grand Sumo Breakdown doing sumo erotica.
I'm just heavily delighted when we can sit in that realm of really dumb, funny, sumo-related fandom.
Yeah.
Because it is the stuff it's the stuff that keeps me going on this podcast, and it is the stuff that makes me laugh and really love sumo. As much as I love the sport in and of itself, I really do. But I love those other really dumb things.
Yeah,
just
I
as
feel
much.
like a lot of sports take themselves so incredibly seriously.
Yes.
And sumo wrestlers do too. I mean, they're way up there with taking themselves very seriously.
As they should.
But when they're on tour, like the video that came out this week of Shodai with Daisho, and who was in the middle? They were doing some sort of
hand slapping game?
No. They were making like a sumo wrestler sandwich, and Shodai had his chin on like Daisho's chest or something. They were bothering him. Like all the hijinks that you see on the tour and like all the pranks, and
I'm here for it.
I'm always here for it.
And I'm also here for, do you remember when we had the episode about the cryptids?
Yes.
That's also one of my favorites because it's dumb, sort of sumo related.
Yeah, that was the
Cryptids of the Corn.
Yeah, but
Halloween.
the creature, the butt creature, the butt obsessed creature,
butt obsessed creature
with a hole in its head
that loves cucumbers
and bows, and that's
and
the only way to
farts.
take them down.
And it's sort of sumo adjacent, but just hilariously wonderful.
Had no idea that ancient creature has been out there and known about for all of those years.
Yes, exactly.
Like, what?
Like those are the things that stick out for me when I think about our past 200 episodes. It's all the dumb stuff.
You know what I think about too is like when we've had guests on, and I mean, we've had lots of wonderful guests and people who have given us their time, but when we were able to interview Konishiki, and that was relatively early on.
Yeah, that's on my list too.
That was relatively early on. Of course, I'd love to go back now and like have another interview knowing so much more. But he was so gracious to give us his time, but really enlightened us with the wrestler's experience, the brutality of it all, and his broken fingers and the pain meds, they're always on. I don't know if I would have known all of that,
Yeah.
But to hear an American who's had an experience doing this and up to the top level, not Yokozuna, but I mean, come on, he should have been. That was really, really awesome to just be in his presence and to just chat about the thing we love. And the only person we've really talked to, we've talked to some other people who've had experience, but nobody else who's had that. specific, intense experience to the highest levels for many years.
Yeah.
And continue to give his life to the sport,
Yeah.
and the popularity of the sport. So
That interview is also on my list of, some of my favorite moments from the last 200 episodes. But one thing that I will always remember from that interview, with the time difference between here and Japan and doing it over Zoom, there's always all this technical stuff behind the scenes that you're figuring out, and you're sending invites, and you have to make sure that your internet is, you restarted it and it's ready to go. Blah, blah, blah. So I remember when we set it all up, and we were just like waiting for him to come on, and it was some ungodly hour early in the morning for him.
yeah, we found out he gets up early.
Yeah.
Because probably
He's
his
done
body,
it for years
yeah,
and years.
Yeah.
So we were sort of waiting for him to come on, and it was like nighttime for us and early in the morning. And then I realized at the last minute that I had to pee. And so as I was like, oh, shoot, I'll be right back. I have to do this because we're going to be talking with this guy for who knows how long. And as soon as I left the room is when he called in and you were there and you picked up. And, I came right back like 30 seconds or a minute later, and he gave me the hardest time. He was like,
he was very funny.
yeah, he was like, that would never fly in sumo. You would be in so much trouble if you were not there when you needed to be there. He was like, it is 6 a.m. or whatever it was. He was like, I am here. I am on time.
Yeah.
And you are not.
Yeah. No, he was so funny, though. Like, he softened. Because, he probably was just like, who are these two yuck, women? And then I did my research on him, and he was impressed that we knew so much about him.
Yeah.
And he then was like, oh, okay. And then he kind of, he calls us the Sumo Sisters. He gave us like this really sweet little nickname that I kind of love, the Sumo Sisters.
Yeah.
He does all kinds of interviews with people who don't know who he is, don't really care to do the research. And so he seemed to really appreciate that, like, we asked some questions that had some depth to them and meant that, like, we had really, looked into his career. And he's consistently, he razzles us.
Razzles us?
Yeah, like online sometimes. And
Yeah, like he doesn't hesitate. Like if we get something not quite right.
Nope.
Yeah, he just send us a message that's like, no, that's not right, ladies.
Right. Right. But he's overall,
which I appreciate.
Yeah, but he's overall like really, he's congenial and very, very sweet and fun. You can get that sense about it. But, he's an honest man and he loves the sport, and he really does like bringing the sumo popularity to a wider audience. And so he's been an incredible ambassador for the sport, especially for foreign audiences like us. Because we don't have to worry about the language barrier. We can just ask him.
Well, I remember talking with Kanishiki. I mean, he put me very much at ease. The way he talked about sumo, it was just kind of like shooting the breeze with a friend.
Yeah, you're also really honest about the dark side of stuff too.
Yeah, but I remember when we interviewed Murray, it was very different. Now, Murray's very nice, but I remember Murray, he just had such succinct, really great answers. Yeah. And he's not afraid of silence. So he would answer something succinctly and then be finished. And then we went on to the next question. So it was just a much more professional interview that kind of made me sit up straight and go, okay, I really have to bring my A game to this guy. Wow.
Well, and John Gunning, that was in the middle of the pandemic. So he was like calling in we were calling him, and he was at home.
Yeah.
So he was also another really great interview. We've just interviewed some really fascinating people, Lynn Matsuoka and her husband, who's recently passed, but in hearing her stories and his stories and, of legends of the past and Chiyono Fuji and what it was like to wrestle for many years ago, those are all really sweet interviews. Like people who gave a lot of time and a lot of detail about a part of history that like none of us currently kind of know about. There's no one, that would be talking to us who's of that generation still at the JSA, because it's so closed, so people have been able to inform us and kind of enlighten us on what it was like back in the 70s or 80s or, before.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even our listeners.
Yeah.
Like y'all are really good at finding something online or finding something even in your own closet,
Right.
Something that your family collected and then you send us a copy, and you're like, hey, did you know this fact? This is one thing you need to look into. I always appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What else is on your list?
Oh, Tokushoryu,
What about Tokushoryu? His win?
his Yusho win.
I was going to say, we didn't interview him. What about him?
Nope. That, though,
His win.
his win. Because we've had, I mean, along with Terunofuji's rise up to Yokozuna, like, that's pretty great as well. That whole experience and
Yeah.
like watching that happen and him coming back up and just dominate, that was amazing. But in some other way, I felt like the ultimate underdog and the magical spirit he pulled out for that tournament.
Yeah.
When Tokushoryu won the Yusho from Maegashira 17, like that, and it was all in honor of right, like his coach or somebody who had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just this guy who probably hung out in Juryo for a long time, made it up to Makauchi, and then somehow did kind of the impossible. And that and the tears of joy and everybody just cheering for the ultimate underdog, that was just like a really, really sweet moment in sumo.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That was a sweet moment. The other one that sticks out for me, just in the sumo itself, and this is the only time I've ever stayed up to watch it live,
Yeah.
was Terunofuji versus Hakuho.
Yeah.
When it was going to be it was Hakuho's last bout,
Yeah.
and Terunofuji trying to get the white belt.
Right.
And I was like, I can't not watch it. I can't sleep. I'm going to stay up and watch this one. I'm going to stay up until 4 a.m. and watch this one. And I did. And I was so glad I did. So glad.
Speaking of, one of our listeners and fellow sumo content creators, Jay Wags, he wrote some original music, and he has a perfect one that he wrote. It's very short, in honor of the great Hakuho.
Oh.
Take a listen.
He's the greatest Yokozuna of all time. Come and join the dojo and celebrate Hakuho. Yeah.
Oh my God. You're amazing,
Yeah.
Jay Wags. That's
Y'all need to
awesome.
like subscribe to him. He's on YouTube, but he's hilarious. And we've met him in person in New York, and he's delightful, absolutely delightful, incredible talent, and does theater like us two theater nerds,
Yeah.
but also has a weird sort of love for sumo.
Like us. We need to do something on YouTube with him.
I know. Well, he's busy working all the time, but anyway.
Well, so are we.
Yeah,
So that's a great problem to have. Well, thank you, Jay Wags, for letting us share that with the world.
Speaking of Jay Wags, one other thing that I really, really love about our podcast is that y'all participate not only in our bingo, not only in like answering our questions and helping out, but your poetry and your songs and just your general like hilarity. Y'all are really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what makes sumo fans so funny, but they are. And Jay Wags wrote a really hilarious song called There's Salt in My Eye. And I think you'll appreciate it because it's just so perfect.
I'm strolling down the Hanamichi. I'm not sad, I throw you freely. Clouds of rain, clouds of loss, make a fist, throw the salt, harate, slapped across. All my love is all your fault, showing up when it's time to fight. Must we dance or must we die? Showdown at the firelight, you didn't make me cry. The salt gun in my eye, you didn't make me cry. The salt gun in my eye, you didn't make me cry. The salt gun in my eye, you didn't make me cry. The salt gun in my eye.
Because it's like an 80s. It has like this 80s vibe, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a British 80s. It's like clearly of the same realm of like, don't you want me, baby? Like whatever Simple Human, whatever song that was. Simple Human is the trash can.
Simple Minds?
Simple Minds.
That would be
Simple
us.
Human is the trash can. Simple Minds is the band. No. Human League.
There we go.
I got it mixed
We could
up.
call it Simple Minds.
Human League is the one that's Don't You Want Me, Baby. Anyway, it's,
You know what it reminds me of? You remember those two dancing guys on SNL?
Yeah.
That would just like pump their heads like
the
that?
Midnight at Roxbury guys.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's totally what
He
it
does
reminds me
such
of.
great spoof stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then there's the poems. And then
I was going to say, yeah, our sexiest
it's
Rikishi
our
poll.
Rikishi. The poll every year when people come out and the reasons why, we really do realize how passionate
Yeah.
everyone is for the wrestlers themselves.
It's like you fill our well with creativity.
And make us feel like
wonderful
we're not
names.
alone
Yeah.
to be this crazed for sumo wrestlers.
To know that there are such huge Kotoeko fans out there who willingly will write all sorts of poetry just
Yeah.
for him
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I have a home.
Yeah.
I have a
We
community.
have very creative people in this community.
Yeah.
And people who do the artwork. I see artwork and like all
Yeah.
these sketches and drawings. And then I'm like, we are a special breed of
We're odd
sumo
ducks.
nerds, like all of us, you know? But I'm so glad to have found this community. It's amazing.
Also, another one of my favorites, and this has happened a couple of times, is anytime we get to sit and chat with Sumo Mainichi.
Yeah, I love them. I love them.
feel-
They're so funny.
I feel like there are good friends across the globe.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in the podcast world has been so nice
Yeah.
and so sweet.
And we see Grand Sumo Breakdown guys too, and we see Sumo
Yeah,
Punks.
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're in Dallas. They're like it's very much like
It's a
all of
small
us
world.
communicate with each other. There's no competition.
No,
Maybe before we knew each other, we were like, "Who are these people that have all these followers?" And then once we got to know them, we're like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, I was
No.
never like that. I was starstruck when it came to like Sumo Mainichi
Well,
and the Grand
yeah.
Sumo Breakdown guys. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, those are the experts. I don't know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's like
about.
how can you live up to that and their knowledge? But then
Amy sent us that note
Yeah.
that was like, women in sumo,
Yeah.
rock on. And I was like, you're my favorite.
yeah,
I love you, Amy.
I mean, there's very much it's a very collaborative. We have a Facebook thread that's sumo like related content people with Grand
Yeah.
Sumo Punks. There's a number of other people that have sumo
are sumo
content
wrestlers.
and sumo wrestlers, and we all communicate about who's going to this or what's going to happen or how about let's have this coming up. And so we
Who's gonna
actually
write this article.
yeah, I mean half the time
All I do is go, rock on, guys.
I know
You guys are great.
I know people have even more time.
I
They
know.
can do these.
They're
awesome
probably
things.
like these darn Sumo Kaboom
They
girls
don't do
never
anything.
volunteer for anything.
I know, but we love being included on that, and you know the commentating for the local stuff that we do.
That we put in quotes are
Yeah.
quote unquote commentating. It's not really commentating.
We don't commentate. We just go, "Oh wow, did you see that?" to an audience that's listening. Yeah,
I'm not sure we have a future in commentating, but that's all right.
I think
It's
now
a skill we could learn.
I think now I could be much better than I was the very first time I did
Commentating?
commentating down in Austin for Justin Kazart.
Yeah.
and the Consulates Cup. But that was so much fun. We got to interview everybody. But yeah, we were
I know,
like,
like, a
every match was like, wow.
Well, yeah, now I
Wow.
know maybe like 5 moves.
I'm like, he pushed him. Did you
pushed
see that
him.
Notawa?
Did you see that Uchari?
He
And then
was on the
I would
belt.
sound so good.
Yeah, but yeah, we got a few more years before we're going pro with that.
I know, yeah. That first year we were like, oh, look, that guy has a porn mustache. Look at that.
No,
that
that
was
was-
our commentating.
Yeah, we also nicknamed somebody Lats and Tats,
Yeah.
and that stuck. I
Well,
think.
it's a great nickname.
It's a great. Well, he did have Lats and Tats.
Yeah.
That were worth remembering.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the community all together that's
Yeah.
really delightful. I don't know if I have anything else other than I always had a sweet spot for Asanoyama. And
You just want to share that?
no, I did love his initial rise. I felt like, oh, I'm watching, this is how a true champion, makes his way to the top. And then it was just so
Poof.
over so quickly.
Yeah.
And then followed by, well, he snuck out. And then that makes me think of other episodes where we find out about horror wives and we find out about cheating and Ryuden and all of the scandals in improv. Sorry. All the scandals in sumo. You're like, this underbelly. It's not like I really enjoy learning about that, but that other kind of side of sumo is still really interesting to me. And I feel like I'm still on team Asanoyama.
Okay.
I definitely still want to see him rise up again and make his way back.
Yeah.
He just made a dumb mistake. He's human, you know, and they all are human. So I hope to see him return up to the top soon.
Boys in their young 20s can make dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, one of my other things that I really have enjoyed in this podcast is learning about, I should just say, I naively didn't think that there were any women involved in the sumo world until we did this podcast. And it was really lovely to learn about people like Doreen Simmons and Katrina Watts and our plethora of U.S. sumo athletes. I have been consistently delighted by the presence of women in the sumo world, even if they're not on the pro dojo yet.
Right.
They are all around it. And I guess that just makes me feel, it just makes me feel good. And I'm glad we've gotten to look into that more.
Yeah. Even though women can't be in the dojo, there's very much an acceptance of women or appreciation that there are women that love the sport. And when you look at the sand seats at the Kokugi-kan, yeah, there's a lot of men, but there's a lot of women that are sponsors or, you know, fancy people that are right down there in those precious seats that no one gets. And so there's, you know, always been a lot of fans who are women. And so it's awesome to continue to celebrate women. And with the Hakaho Dream Girls Cup, you know, continuing down that path of like, hey, like continue to bring women into the sport.
Yeah.
Your audience is going to grow, clearly.
Yep.
And
and in the international sumo world, having the voice of Katrina right there, front and center in all of these sumo events, doing the real commentating beyond like what we do.
Yeah, that's somebody's a real commentator.
A real pro.
Not a fake one.
We're just really lucky to have those voices in the sumo world.
Agree.
And to know our place in that.
Which is at dead
very
bottom. I wouldn't call it commentating what we do, but that's okay.
Yeah, me neither.
We can break down a match much better
Afterwards, yeah.
I was always in the beginning it was very daunting to go try to break it down and relay that into you know the podcast and to our listeners. And I'm sure my original breakdowns were like, he shoved him hard and he was out of the big circle thing. Now I understand enough, you know, of terminology and people who listen once. I have lots of friends who listen once and who love me because they're like, I'm going to support you once. They all say the same thing, which is, y'all know so much about sumo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks, you know? And they're like, it's just really not my thing. And I'm like, totally cool. I get that. You're into other things. But that's the one thing we hear a lot is that like, hey, we're not experts. But you know what? Over 4 years, we've learned a lot and can
we have
talk.
an undergraduate degree in sumo.
I would say, yeah.
We have an associate's degree?
Yeah.
A 4-year
I would
associate's
call
degree?
it,
We have a 4-year certificate.
I would call it a GED.
We have a GED in sumo. We have a low SAT score in sumo.
Well, that is actually true. My SAT score,
Our verbal
was awful.
much better than our math in sumo.
Yeah, my scores were way off in school and in learning sumo. But you know what? I get things after trying hard for a while. So
we got the honorable mention trophies in sumo. Someone else is getting the technique prize.
Yeah,
we're getting the honorable mentions that
for talking about the things that people like, which is, you know, belly rubbing events.
That's right.
And we do break down the matches as best we can. And
and hot takes from Kanishki.
Hot takes from Kanishki.
Hot takes
yeah, we do our best, but we have fun.
Yeah.
So what would you say, to 4 more years?
Who knows? Let's just ride this train as long as we want. And when it stops being fun, we just take a break.
That's right. Or we move to Japan.
Ooh, and become commentators.
Yes.
Because someone's got to teach us how.
Yes.
But we'll do it.
Yeah. If I could live over there and like do that, not all the time, because I do like living here. You know, I have a dog and like a boyfriend and a family and
but I'd
things
go
like
over
that.
twice a year to
I
commentate.
would absolutely, or go. You know, what'd be awesome is we could be the commentators for the tours,
That'd be awesome. Oh my gosh.
or just like the people that go along for all the foreigners and like explain it out for
Yeah.
the foreigners
Here's
who
what's
happen
happening.
upon a sumo tour and they're like, I don't know what's happening.
They're like, they're throwing out beans, and here's why.
They're
And
in their
those
magical
outfits-
pink suits that look like Star Trek suits. This is why.
This is why they're holding the babies.
Right. And the
this
babies are crying.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
not
why the
bad.
whole audience is screaming every time he puts his foot down. This is actually a really good sign. When the babies cry, it's even cuter. Yeah, I would love that
foreign
job.
sumo tour guides.
Yes, please.
Well,
All right, with that dream in mind.
we will be back at you next week with who knows?
Who knows what?
Well, the Bonzuke is coming out here. I think this next week. I think it comes out. So there might be a little bit of stuff to talk
Real
about there.
sumo stuff that we'll talk about.
But maybe not. We'll maybe just talk
see.
about, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Until then,
See y'all later.
bye.
Bye.
Isn't that amazing?
Anyone who's willing to put that down, like record that,
Yeah.
write that, share that,
Play all the parts.
is in
mix it.
eighth. Oh, he did all the music too?
Everything is him.
Sticky. Good, Enho thought. He placed his fingers in his mouth, scraped the white, stringy mass behind his teeth. His eyes rolled back into his head as the ecstasy of flavor filled his mouth. Sweet and delicious, he thought. I always love making mochi for New Year's.